So thank you so much for
Okay.
joining us today, for taking time off.
My pleasure.
Before I get started, I just want to say hello to all the audience, and of course, introduce Dr. Rakhee. Dr. RakheeYadav is actually the consultant pediatrician and head of the Department of Pediatrics in Ara Damansara Medical Center. And of course, she is also a vaccine advocate, early nutrition specialist, and she's very, very prolific. Just check on her profile. You can click into a link and you can see all her extension. She's also an early nutrition specialist as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Rakhee, for taking time off your busy schedule to be with us. And you're very, very active on all the social media platforms, we see. And
Yes.
And I learned that, of course, it comes from a very good place of you wanting to educate, because there's just a lot of a misconception that's around the COVID-19, especially in the vaccine. So without taking too much time, I just want to dive straight into it. And just to start,
Absolutely.
I think before we go into the more common myth, and I personally has been getting a lot of feedback, and anybody who's actually watching this, please do not take me, just bear with me. I'm not trying to stereotype, but a lot of my friends has been telling me, especially some of the older folks, they actually have taken the first dose because it's the first to get on the vaccine, right? I mean, because they are prioritized, and just because they take the first dose, apparently they've been sort of like partying and been going out because they think that they are now immune to that. Is that a case or scenario that you guys are witnessing, or is just hearsay?
No, I think because we're in our third lockdown, and those of you in the Klang Valley, certain parts of Selangor and KL, it's like our EMCO at the moment. So a lot of them, I've heard in the first part when the vaccines all started coming out, they were actually post-vaccine parties. Like people thought, oh, 1 dose, I'm protected. They didn't realize that it actually takes 2 doses for a 2-dose vaccine. There are some single-dose vaccines, but the ones that we have in our country are 2-dose vaccines. And it takes 2 doses and 2 weeks after the second dose for you to be fully protected. And that's for the original COVID-19 infection. I'm not even talking about the variants. For the variants, it's much less protection after the first one. So yeah, I mean, I have been hearing these stories that people go out, people hang out, have like small parties, birthdays, reunions, weddings, after the first dose, and it's detrimental. I mean, you're not protected, and you can risk transmitting, and we have seen quite a huge number of people that got infected after the first dose. So it beats the purpose of you getting the vaccine totally. And I just lost a friend's father just a week ago. After he got his first dose, he was exposed to someone who was positive and subsequently passed away within a week of the infection. So, I mean, it's so sad to hear such things. And we have to realize that getting 2 doses is very, very important.
I am so sorry to hear that, and I'm so sorry to hear that. And actually, there's a request. I don't know whether it's your friend Rina 305.
No.
Okay,
that's fine.
Okay, yeah. So the thing is also now, frankly, I'm a bit kanchong doing this interview, right? Most of my interview are like lifestyle, but this is a serious topic,
yeah.
Right? And really, yeah. I want to learn from you, and thank you so much for taking time to do this. Now, I was under the impression, that even you're protected after the second dose, after the 2 weeks period, it just means that you maybe still get the disease, but you're asymptomatic, or you're totally won't get COVID-19, or is it you will get it but they're asymptomatic?
So we must realize that vaccines are not 100% foolproof, right? So the main reason we're vaccinating everybody is, number one, to prevent death. We don't want people to die of the infection. We don't want people to end up in ICUs, and that's a huge burden on our healthcare. As you can see, all hospitals in Klang Valley are putting up SOS. They can't take it anymore, So we want to reduce death, we want to reduce hospitalization and ICU, and of course we want to reduce severe COVIDs, because it's these 3 categories of patients that actually end up either dying early or end up with what we call long COVID, long-term side effects of the infection. So vaccines don't protect you completely. We want to protect the worst and the severest form of the diseases so that all you end up getting, if you do, you get a mild form of the disease, or you're completely asymptomatic and you're fine, like a simple flu.
Okay.
You know, so we're not targeting to prevent the whole thing. We want this to sort of be like a flu where, you know, it's endemic, it is in the country, it will happen on and off, but most people survive. Very rarely, if any, would actually succumb to the disease. So that's the main reason we're advocating vaccines. That was the initial part. And now we're advocating vaccinations because of the variants that have formed.
Yep.
So we know in any virus infection, so virus mutate. That's just what they do, you know. So every time a virus enters a new host, it tends to mutate. It goes into the cell of the host, it mutates and makes copies of itself. Right. So every time it makes these thousands of copies, one small code is abnormal in one particular copy, and that's how it forms mutations.
Right.
So there are thousands of COVID-19 mutations already out there, but not all of them end up as variants. Right. You know, so we have a few variants of concern, variants of interest, and these variants are the ones that have a propensity to cause more severe infections and death. And if you have a smaller amount of vaccinated population, that's where you have more virus transmitting among healthy people or immunocompromised. That means your immune system is not as good as others. And these are when the variants actually form. So, you know, there's so many reasons why we should get vaccinated fully.
So the thing is, so from what I gathered, from what you shared, you know, we are not 100% protected. You know, maybe we get a milder form of, so meaning we are still able to transmit. So like for instance,
yes.
So for instance, like me and my wife, you know, we are vaccinated, we are protected, but our children, because they are not of the age that they can be vaccinated,
yes.
we could actually bring home COVID-19, so to say, and transmit
yes.
to them. Is that right? So we still need to exercise.
If you're not vaccinated, definitely. So the target, the reason we're vaccinating the elderly group is because we want to reduce death and morbidity in them. We don't want them to be very sick and die. And the reason we're vaccinating the younger one is to reduce transmission. Right. So that the workforce adults like us don't bring back the disease to our children, don't bring back the disease to family members who are unable to get the vaccine for whatever various reasons. You know, so we want to reduce transmission, we want to reduce death. So that's the reason why we're vaccinating, right? And nothing is 100% in life. You know, dying in a car accident, there's a certain percentage of risk, but does that mean we stop driving a car? I mean, we have to get from place A to place B. So same thing with vaccinations. There's always a risk to anything in life, but you've got to put the risk versus benefit. You know, getting COVID-19, there's a possibility of me dying, me being completely disabled, me being ended up in ICU for months, versus getting the vaccine where there's some side effects in the first 2 days, but most of the time there's nothing, and we go on living as per usual. Yeah,
we do our best, we leave the rest to God, okay? So Absolutely. Now, apart from this, what are the most common myths that you would like to, you think that people need to know? What are the most common, maybe two common myths that people need to know about the vaccine?
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm going to very quickly name a few. I've listed a couple because so many of my patients have asked me. Wow. So hi Julian.
Hi.
I'm gonna just quickly list them down, and if you have any questions to why they are a myth and not a fact, then you just let me know and I will go into them. So number one, COVID-19 vaccines do not cause COVID-19 infection. All right, so that's something that you have to be very clear on. The vaccine does not cause an infection. Right? The COVID-19 vaccine does not alter your DNA.
Okay.
Right? A lot of people say, oh, it's going to all come into my body and I'm going to be microchipped and the world's going to know where I am and what am I doing and all that. That's absolute myth. So no, it does not alter your DNA. And some of them also say that, oh, it's a very rushed vaccine. Less than 1 year already got vaccine. Less than 6 months already got vaccine. No, it doesn't mean that it's not considered rushed, because mRNA technology was actually discovered in 1961.
Okay.
So this has been in research for many, many years, and there's already mRNA technology in the production of a cancer treatment that was already there in 1995. So this is not new technology. It's just that it is technology that has been researched for many, many years, and now that we find this is really good technology to produce the vaccine for COVID-19, okay. And that's why we rolled it out. So that's another one. That is not a rushed vaccine, and it's absolutely researched so that we know that this is something that's coming up, proper stringent background, right? And another one that a lot of people say is, if I've had the infection, there's no need for me to get the vaccine. I've got natural protection. God gave me this body and I'm naturally protected. Yes, God gave you the body, but God also told you to take care of the body. Yes. All right. So studies have shown that if you get the natural infection, your immunity wanes within a few months, right? So it may not last you a lifelong period. So you still need to get the vaccine. Right. There's still a little bit of guideline issues in terms of when you should get the vaccine. Previously, they said 3 months after the infection. At one point, they said 6 months after the infection. But you actually can get the vaccine as soon as you're well. So the moment you've recovered, you've got an appointment, just go ahead and get the vaccine. All right. And then some people say that if you hold your breath for 10 seconds, you're considered healthy and you don't have COVID. No. So when you hold your breath for 10 seconds, you're just testing your lungs, right? So it does not mean you don't have COVID, because you can still have asymptomatic COVID. You can still have the mild form of COVID. And those don't affect your lung at all. So holding your breath for 10 seconds just signifies you have some sort of lung disease. For all we know, you're a smoker or something and you can't hold your breath, and that's probably attributing it rather than the COVID infection itself. Sure. Another one that the mamas who come to see me, right? I'll have a lot of mama friends and a lot of mama patients. They said, you cannot breastfeed if you're getting the vaccine. Make sure you pump and dump. Make sure you stop breastfeeding for 1 week, 2 weeks, or God knows how long. Absolutely rubbish. You do not need to interrupt your breastfeeding. Okay. You do not need to stop breastfeeding. Okay. Please breastfeed before and after. The only thing I request from you as mothers is when you come back home, mandi lah, have a bath, right? Have a bath, clean yourself, breastfeed as per usual. All right. Okay. And the other thing, like you mentioned, the vaccine parties, is masks. So some people feel, hey, I already vaccinated 2 times already. No need to wear the mask. No need to follow SOP. I just wash my hand once a day, enough already. No such thing. You still need to follow the SOPs, especially if you're living in Selangor, because the rate in our community is so high. Yes. And as of today, our vaccination rate in Selangor is only 6% that is fully vaccinated. So it's a very, very, very small amount. You cannot afford to let go of any of these SOPs, because you still need to protect your children. You still need to protect certain groups of people that live with you. So yeah, that's basically the gist list that I took, that the most common questions that I got from my patients. Okay, thank you so much. So the thing is, what about brands? Do you get questions about brands of vaccine? Are they any different? Of course I do. So there are 5 brands in Malaysia now. So we all know Pfizer. Everybody is like Pfizer. It's Pfizer. The P is silent. There are a lot of pronunciations, but it's Pfizer. So then we have AstraZeneca, and then we have Sinovac. And then we have the 2 that just joined on board but haven't been put out yet, is the Johnson & Johnson, as well as there's one more that just came out into the market. So it's Moderna? Oh, no. No, it wasn't Moderna. No, definitely not Moderna. Oh shoot! Now it just slipped my mind. It's one of those that's at the tip of your tongue, but you just can't remember. So anyway, Johnson & Johnson, a single dose. Oh, CanSino Bio. So CanSino Bio as well as Johnson & Johnson vaccine are single dose vaccines. So they plan to give this to industrial workers, all those construction workers and all, because it's single dose. You don't have to come back for a double dose. So in that sense, it's broader protection, increased herd immunity, faster rate. So the 3 most talked about vaccines are once again Pfizer, AstraZeneca, as well as the Sinovac. Yep. So if you're going to ask me which one's the best, which one should I take? All 3 are WHO recognized. Sure. All 3, as of today, maybe 2 hours ago, are EU recognized as well. A lot of people were worried about the AstraZeneca and all that. EU has officially recognized it as well. So all 3 are WHO, EU recognized, and all 3 have gone through stringent, strict processes in the research and development of the vaccine. I would not be picky and choosy at this point. My statement and my stand is still get the fastest vaccine you can get, right? People are saying, oh, if you get this vaccine, I can't travel here. Who's traveling? There's nobody going to be traveling. And once traveling opens also, the moment tourism opens as well, no country is going to be left behind and say, I'm not going to take your vaccine. I'm not going to take this vaccine. They're just going to say, okay, as long as you're vaccinated, you're allowed to enter the country. So please just get the fastest vaccine that you can get. Don't worry about the variants. Don't worry about all the other aspects of it. Some of you may have personal medical issues. In that case, discuss it with your physicians. I'm not giving personal advice here, but discuss it with your own doctors to see which one is suitable at which part of your treatment.
Thank you so much.
So my stand is still the fastest vaccine that you can get.
I was going to make that disclaimer, you know, while Dr. Rakhee is very, very professional, but we're not dispensing any advice. We just want to
any personal advice.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
It's very contextual. Every time refer to your own your medical practitioner. Yeah. So I was going to say this, but you got to let me finish the sentence, okay? I know how to pronounce. I'm a Chinaman, but I know how to pronounce Pfizer because I was an ambassador for them. And do not think otherwise. It's not the blue pill. It's not Viagra. Because together with Henry Golding, there used to be a program called Man Care. So basically, a group of celebrity, myself, Henry Golding, Sharizan Bohan, so we spoke for breast cancer because just like breast cancer, I mean, without diluting too much, they think it's a women's disease. Yeah, but firstly, there is men who get breast cancer, but it's very rare. But the thing is, like, 50% of the population, 50% of the people that we live with are women. My wife, my you know, so that's why there was a, so that's a side note. So coming back to that, so I know Pfizer, not because of blue pill. Okay. So coming back to that, now without getting too political or anything, you know, now we are in a lockdown, why are we not seeing the cases come down in particular in Selangor? Is it because there's more testing so that we know more of it? Is that why? Or why suddenly it seems like the number is not stabilizing?
There's so many reasons to that, you know. It's not just about one factor, you know. It's multifactorial, I would say. Yes, our vaccination rates are low, right? Like I mentioned, 6% in Selangor. I think it's about 20 or 30% in Kuala Lumpur. So main thing is your vaccination rate is low. Second thing is the numbers that we're testing in Selangor is much higher than any other state in Malaysia, right? And if you look at the case infectivity rate, it is actually between 7% to 9%, and that number has not come down. Despite the 5 to 6 weeks of almost lockdown that we've been having, that number has not come down. So there are so many other factors. Places that are meant to be closed are open. You've got clusters within certain offices, clusters within certain factories, you know, and you've got clusters in the low-cost housing areas, because these are the people that can't go out and get vaccinated. These are the people that don't have the same opportunities as the others in the urban areas. But you know, you want to say that, you know, it's because of this one thing, that's why Selangor is not doing well. No, it's actually multifactorial. There's so many reasons why this is not happening. And I think we just got to just hang in there. We still have to do what we can do. Stay at home as long as you can. There's so many ways. I think we're just going to go into self-care and all that, whatever that later on. But do your whatever self-care that is needed. Stay at home. Follow the SOPs and the public health measures that we have in place, and make sure you get registered for the vaccination. It will come to you sooner or later. So far, touch wood, everybody who's messaged me on my Instagram, they're like, "Doctor, when am I going to get my appointment?" And I'm like, just hang in there. You'll probably get it within the next 1 week or so. And they'll send me a message, "Doc, you bring me luck. You got my appointment tomorrow." You know, so many have actually said that. So all I'm going to say is hang in there, get yourself registered, and make sure that you have all the details in your MySejahtera app accurate. Because a lot of times one digit is missing and you don't get the prompt and your notifications on your app, and then you miss the appointment, you know. So there are multifactorial reasons behind it, and we've just got to hang in there. Yeah,
happened to my brother-in-law, but we got that sorted out. So yeah, so
that's good.
I'm waiting for my second dose of Sinovac, so which is 16. So yeah, so now coming back to that, is it safe to vaccinate the children at the moment?
Okay, so the World Health Organization, the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, which is by FDA, you've got the American Academy of Pediatrics, you've got the CDC, you've got the FDA. Everybody has agreed that vaccinating children 12 years and above with the Pfizer, the mRNA vaccine is acceptable, right? In our country, there's a little bit of a you can, you cannot, you can, you cannot. That's basically because there's not enough vaccine, and we just want to prioritize our adults, the seniors, the elderly, the phase 2 and phase 3 fellas before we actually go down into the children batch. So as of I think about 2-3 days ago, they've announced that children who've got some medical issues or are immunocompromised, they have some sort of immune issues that reduce immunity, will get the vaccine. And it's not blanket rule to everybody, but it's not because of the side effects or anything. It's basically, it's just fear mongering.
Yep.
You know, oh, don't take it yet, there's a lot of issues. No, it's basically because there's vaccine shortage.
Yep.
You know, there's so many places that don't have enough vaccine. I personally have volunteered in several places, and it's like, you know, you've got this huge hall and everybody's just waiting for someone to come and get vaccinated. And, you know, one person will trickle in, another person will trickle in. And then you're like, what's the point having a mega PPV that can vaccinate 10,000 people when only you're vaccinating about 1,000 a day? You know, so obviously there's a vaccine shortage. So that's the only reason why they're not rolling it out, blanket rule, everybody 12 years and above to get it. But it's absolutely safe. It is a little bit of a moral, ethical dilemma going on, because some people say, oh, but kids generally don't get infected very much, very mild, sometimes asymptomatic, don't have any much diseases, so why need to vaccinate? No need what? But they forget that there is such a thing called MISC, which is multi-system inflammatory disorder syndrome in children, which can happen 4 to 6 weeks. If a child is infected and asymptomatic, no symptoms, 4 to 6 weeks later, they get this full immune shutdown. I mean, this inflammation all over the body, and about almost 4,000 children have died because of this worldwide. In Malaysia, I think the number was about just slightly above 10, you know. So children are still dying. Children are still getting infected. In Malaysia, the latest number that we got was 120,000 that children below 18 years old that got infected with COVID-19. That's a startling 25%. So that's a quarter of us being infected. I mean, so why leave the children out? Just because, you know, or this, so that's what I'm saying. It's a moral, ethical dilemma going on. They can die, they can develop long-term effects. So we should definitely vaccinate the children if and when the vaccine supply becomes more stable.
We're going to come back to that very shortly. I just want to give a shout out to Dr. Jason Leong, who has just joined us on IG Live. Dr. Jason Leong, I just want to thank you personally for the public service announcement that you have done. Thank you so much. It was brilliantly done. So coming back to the children, and we're talking about the dilemma. I think that my personal feeling is, the truth is, we do not know yet, right? The long-term effects of the COVID, even they might be asymptomatic now, but we never know what's going to happen. And the truth is, we do not have history, we do not have track record, so it's best to get them vaccinated, right? So
absolutely. I'm going to just to touch a little bit on one of the main things everybody is talking about with regards to vaccinating children, which is myocarditis or pericarditis. You know, a few cases in Singapore, I think a few days back, a kid just dropped it and had a heart attack and died. You know, so a lot of fear mongering is going on with parents. And I think it's absolutely important for us to know that myocarditis is basically inflammation of the heart muscle. Pericarditis is inflammation of the lining of the heart. All right, so they're basically inflammation of the heart that can make you get symptoms like palpitation, you feel your heartbeat a bit stronger, abnormal heart rhythms, difficulty in breathing, sometimes chest pains. And this has been seen in mainly boys after the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine, 4 to 6 days after the Pfizer vaccine. But the numbers that have been reported are just slightly, so myocarditis happens regularly due to most viruses and all that. But the numbers that we're seeing is just slightly above the general background rate. So it's not something that is alarming. Something that parents have to realize is, so now you've got COVID-19 vaccine and you may very small risk of you getting myocarditis. But if you get the COVID-19 infection, you get full-blown heart inflammation. You get full-blown problems with the heart. You can have a cardiac arrest because you've got, instead of a small particle or an RNA or you know, a small kill virus, you get the whole virus that's affecting the body. So it's not just the myocarditis you will get inflammation of a lot of places. So it is something that you've got to look at the risk versus benefit. And at this point, the benefit far outweighs the risk of getting the vaccine rather than getting the infection. So that's just to touch on a little bit about myocarditis, because I'm pretty sure some parents out there do read up and they suddenly get certain, I've been WhatsApped so many times with this, and I just wanted to put it out there that there is a small risk, but at this point, your risk of getting COVID-19 is much higher. And like you said, the long-term effects in children is something that we really don't want to take a risk on.
Yeah. And of course, we're also talking about variants, right? So we do not know if they might be protected now. We do not know how the variants will evolve. Talking about variants, and before we get into the variants, and we are sensitive of your time because 6 minutes to go. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to have any questions for Doctor, we might not be able to take it, but after this session is over, we'll post it. Maybe you could type it on the comments, and maybe Doctor could answer them at a later stage. Now, talking about variants, and this is really something that affected me, and I have no way to verify it, right? So I'm on Sino, and the moment after I took Sino, 2 days later, and they actually say, oh, Sino doesn't protect you from Delta. So I feel like, is there an answer, or we do not know?
Okay, so the thing about variants, okay, so when I mentioned, if anybody missed the beginning part of this IGTV, please go back and listen, the part where I talk about how virus mutate and what actually happens. So mutations and variants can develop, and some of the variants actually self-destruct and the virus kills itself. So those are the good ones. We want them all to die and disappear, right? We want our life to get back to normal. Yeah. But then there are some that mutate and they become nastier, they become stronger, they learn how to evade the antibodies from a vaccine, from a treatment and all that. But like I mentioned, vaccines are not 100%. It's not a silver bullet. We still need to have all the other public health measures. So it's not just one thing that, this is a vampire, I'll shoot a silver bullet and it's going to die. No, it doesn't work that way. So variants of concern and variants of interest. The one that we hear a lot about is alpha, beta. You've got the delta, and you've also got the gamma. And now the latest one is the lambda. Yeah. I know there are a lot of fancy Latin words, but it's basically a bunch of different categorization of different names of different mutations that have happened to make the original COVID-19 virus nastier, right? So vaccines in general give previous ones to the original COVID-19, 100%, like I said, the death, the hospitalizations and the severe diseases, 100% protection. But now we've done research mainly for Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. So these four, we have papers, we have data that shows that there is protection, but after the second dose. Okay. Right? So if you get a single dose of either one of these, it's around 30% to 40% protection. But if you get 2 doses, it goes between 60 to 90% protection against the Delta. I'm just talking about the Delta. Sinovac, however, China doesn't release much data to us. Okay. So we don't have any data. But we do have a small anecdotal paper from Guangzhou, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but Guangzhou in China, that said that there is neutralizing antibodies and it does provide protection against the Delta variant. But you know how Chinese are, they're very secretive about, what they want to release, what they're going to say. So even the previous Sinovac data that we had is from other countries, Indonesia, Turkey, Brazil, so all these other countries that have actually given us the data, not China itself. Right. So we're just waiting for absolute data. But for me, it does give you some protection. So don't worry about it too much. Just get the vaccination. Like I said, the best is the fastest that you can get. Don't be so kanchong. I didn't get the right one. Maybe I should get another one later. Because at this point, you definitely want to get some vaccine in, because there's so much of ongoing trials that are looking at mixing and matching, that are looking at topping up a vaccine with another mRNA vaccine. Like, I'll give you an example of Bahrain. So there's a country called Bahrain, very small population, but Bahrain started vaccinating their population with Sinopharm, which is also a China-based vaccine. And they realized that there were a few cases, breakthrough cases, and they started seeing a surge again. And what they started doing was they started topping up with Pfizer. Okay. So all those who got their 2 doses of Sinopharm got a single dose of Pfizer. So we're looking at science changes. There's going to be so much of new change that's going to happen. So don't be kanchong. Just get the vaccine. I also believe in positive mindset. If you think I'm protected, you're going to be protected. Yes. If you think, I'm going to get it, you're surely going to get it. So positive mindset, get the fastest vaccine you can get. And unfortunately, the only data I have for Sinovac is that one small anecdotal study. And if anybody has any other data they want to share with me, please DM me as well. I'm more than happy to learn as much as possible. Sure.
And as we were saying earlier, doctor is not offering personal consultation here. Is just general debunking the myth. If you have questions, you really have to see your own medical practitioner, or if you want to choose to see Dr. Rakhee, you have to go see her personally as well. But that's not her intention for today. So finally, possibly we have this last question. What are your thoughts about the variants? currently, or do you think we already covered?
Okay. I just want to mention that in our local setting, so in Malaysia, we have 6 variants that have been identified, right? So you've got the alpha, beta, delta, kappa, theta, and eta, right? So you've got 3 VOCs and 3 VOIs, variants of concern, which are the nasty fellas, variants of interest, which can become nasty but are not nasty just as yet. So delta is the one that all of us are worried about. It's interesting to note that delta is actually 0 cases in Selangor. It's not the delta that's going around in Selangor. We're seeing it more in Negeri Sembilan, Labuan, and a couple of cases in KL. But that's not the one that's causing huge outbreak in Selangor. The one that we see the highest in Selangor with more than 100 cases is the beta. Right? So the beta variant is the one that's causing, that's the South African one. That's the one that's causing most of the cases in Selangor. So those are the ones that we're seeing at the moment in huge surges, in clusters in Selangor. You know, the other 3 VOIs are in Sarawak and Johor. So this is not something that we should be alarmed about so much. But having said that, to diagnose a variant COVID-19, it requires genetic studies, what we call genomic studies. And it's not cheap, it's not easily done, and it's not done enough. Right? So I may see some patient that may feel that's probably a variant, but just treat and discharge once he's well. You know, so that's the mindset now. Discharge, go home, get the healthcare burden down. You know, so we're not doing enough testing. That's why we may not be picking up the accurate numbers of variants. But once again, don't be so alarmed. I just wanted to put it out there that we're not seeing a surge in Delta in our country. So don't be so worried about Delta protecting you with whatever vaccine that you've gotten. So science changes, you know, so, you know, be aware about that as well.
So thank you so much, Dr. Rakhee, for debunking the COVID myth with Dr. RakheeYadav, the consultant pediatrician and head of Department of Pediatrics in Ara Damansara. And she is actually very passionate about debunking all this myth and giving the right information. She's active on LinkedIn, she's active on Facebook, she's active here. Please do give her a follow so that you'll be updated with the newest update, because she is very, very fast, and I trust her source of news, because like the spousal, she will be up there because she has access to clarify, rather than us checking with our brother-in-law, you know, our best cousin, you know. So Dr. Rakhee will have some of these updates ready with her. So before we go, Dr. Rakhee, I'll just thank you again. Do you have any parting thoughts for us?
I just want to say that vaccination seems to be the only way out of this in terms of variant formations, in terms of reducing transmission, in terms of reducing healthcare burden. And in view of variants causing a lot of higher transmission rates and all that, it takes a larger population of vaccinated people to actually provide that same amount of protection. So the more we get vaccinated, the more of us get vaccinated, the faster, the better we actually go back to normalcy. So in that sense, I'd like to thank you, Kit Chan, for giving me this opportunity to go on a public platform like this and providing accurate information that is up to date, and to reassure some of you out there who may have certain worries or may have certain thoughts that, you know, are bugging them. And I hope I've answered as much as I can.
So thank you so much. I am humbled and honored. You know, I was very kanjong to host you, you know, because, you know, this is a serious topic. You know, you're very busy. Your mom to 4 kids, and you have very huge responsibility in your clinics. But despite that, your passion to give the right information out. So we thank you so much. And please thank you for your service of the nation and all your colleagues as well. So thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, Dr. Rakhee.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye for now. Thank you all for joining us.
Bye-bye.